What's going on, everybody? We're on the heels of Memorial Day weekend. The summer is allegedly officially here. We've just had two hot pay-per-views. We had King and Queen of the Ring from WWE. We had Double or Nothing from AEW. It is I, the Reverend, aka the Good, joined by the Devil's Advocate himself, the Bad, and the one and only Encyclopedia. Guys, how are you? You ready to get into it tonight?
Let's do it.
Right.
And gentlemen, don't worry. I didn't tell Adam Copeland to break a leg before he went out to the ring. That was
I
an
thought that was a
EVP.
great line. That's
I
a
had to
great line.
replay it 3 times. I was laughing so hard. I was like, "Oh my
Yeah.
god, that was perfect."
We're gonna talk about a little bit of Dynamite stuff later, but I will say I am liking the Young Bucks in their current role a lot more than I've ever liked the Young Bucks before. So let's talk about these pay-per-views. I guess we'll get into the premium live event first, and say on Saturday, uh, had a chance to enjoy WWE King and Queen of the Ring from I guess they were in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. I'm never
Jeddah.
sure which one. Oh, in Jeddah, that's right. The one later this year is in Riyadh. All right, so from Jeddah, Saudi Arabia. And let's talk right about it, guys. What did you think of the show overall? Encyclopedia, I'm going to start with you.
I don't think you want to do that. I think you should come to me last.
Oh, wow. That means you got some serious thoughts. All right. Devil's
I'll
Advocate.
I'll
What'd you
take the
think of the
mantle
show?
here. Well, first of all, I cursed myself because if I didn't realize Becky Lynch's um, contract was up. Otherwise, I would have picked Liv Morgan. So stupid me. I should have paid attention to that.
Yeah, I had no
Um,
idea either.
I'm going to go back to what I've been saying all along: is how the build-up is really great, but the shows are really predictable. Like, I don't think anybody thought Logan Paul was going to win. I don't think anybody thought Laya Valkyria had a chance. I don't think anybody thought Sami Zayn was going to lose. So while they're building things up quite well, the uh, the matches themselves are kind of predictable, and that to me is a little. It's funny. It's like they're having the reverse problems. Like WWE is doing great build up and then having very predictable matches, and AEW isn't doing really is doing poor build up, but is having great pay per view matches. So like they're not on the same track, which I get. I just wish there was a little more um, unpredictability in the W. Like I didn't feel like I needed to watch the pay per view, and I pretty much knew everybody was going to win. I mean, look, I went 4-1. The good man did 4-1. The encyclopedia went 5-0. I mean, we really didn't have any problems predicting any of the matches. You know, so I don't know how you fix something like that. Um, it just seems like certain people are on a track and you know where they're going. Like we all knew Gunther was going to win. Um, and I saw an interesting stat that I wanted to bring up before I move on. I move on to the Reverend. Randy Orton is 0-5 in the last 5 pay-per-views he's been on. He has lost to Gunther. He has lost to Roman. He's lost to everybody. Like everybody he's wrestled the last 5 pay-per-views he's lost, and that's something that like when we pick on like a Chris Jericho or we pick on someone like not putting people over. Here's Randy Orton, who you don't really realize it is not really winning all the big matches anymore. I mean, he's still putting on a great match, still completely entertaining, but not winning the big ones. And I think at this point in his career, like I wouldn't think I don't call him like over the hill, but you would have thought like maybe he'd still have a run left in him. But they're really maybe that's the angle they're building up to. The other thing I read is that someone was predicting he's going to turn heel because he's going to realize he's losing too many matches being the fan favorite, so he's going to turn and maybe challenge Cody or something like that. So I don't know. I just thought that was interesting. It's something I hadn't really. It happened like under the radar. You don't really realize it, and you're like, wow, yeah, you're right. He hasn't won anything recently at all. Um, but it was the card was fine. Um, Nothing really stood out to me. It was fine. Like I said, predictable. I watched it almost like with one eye on it, just waiting. Because I kind of knew, like I said, who was going to win. So I was just kind of waiting for the ends of the matches. It was all right. I mean, it was a fine. It was fine. I don't know if I'd watch it again, but
Interesting.
Reverend,
Yeah,
what's your thoughts?
it's funny you mentioned that about Randy Orton because I think he's been that guy for a lot longer than we give him credit for, or at least he's wanted to be that guy for a lot longer than we might give him credit for. And I'm thinking, especially even going back to his feud with Bray Wyatt years ago, he was trying to put him over and get him that win, and company makes its decisions, and it doesn't. And he was very vocal about that even back then. And I think there are other times where he's been very vocal about wanting to get guys wins over him, where I think he knows he's at that status where he doesn't really have to win a match. And he's fine because he's still Randy Orton. Um, but yeah, to that point, yeah, I did think about how maybe this is the third PLE in a row that we've all pretty much predicted um, straight through, or give or take a match here and
Mm.
there. And I have two thoughts about it. One, yeah, it's kind of predictable, but maybe that's for us, and maybe it's because that's how we're considering these shows, and we're looking at it in terms of how do you evaluate the buildup and who's at what position in the storyline and where they are in their career and contract and stuff. But if you're an everyday person, do you care? And they WWE is very much out there. They're trying to appeal to everybody. And in terms of their storytelling, yeah, they have very clear and simple storytelling. I mean, Bloodline is kind of complex, but that's just a very long story. Um, but they don't try to trick you very often. It seems like, and I think that's okay. I care more about whether or not they're able to deliver in the matches, and for the most part, I think they do. Again, I thought everybody was good. I enjoyed the show. I did think there was one particular standout, and it wasn't what I expected. It was it was Michael Cole being a menace on commentary, because I don't know if you guys have noticed that he and McAfee, they just stay taunting everybody from ringside. And he got into it with Dom. And he's been getting into it with Dom for a while now. He got into it with Logan Paul, to a point where I thought he was going to have to break out the singlet again and set up that match for SummerSlam, because it was just too overt. Um, so I thought they've added in some things to the show that I really enjoyed. Um, did anything stand out? Not particularly. I really enjoyed Gunther and Orton's match. I really enjoyed the triple threat intercontinental match. And I enjoyed the ending of the women's tag team championship match, which I didn't expect to. I just enjoyed that final sequence of it, and I like that they didn't use their regular moves. So yeah, I thought it was a good show. Will I watch it again? I don't know, man. I even in terms of King of the Ring finals and Queen of the Ring finals, I don't know. Like the last 2 minutes of each of those matches, maybe those stood out, and I think that was really it. It was the way the matches concluded that stood out for me this time. But yeah, good show. Nothing too surprising. But Encyclopedia, as you were steaming when I first asked you this question, I figure now is the time to ask what were your thoughts on King and Queen of the Ring?
So, King and Queen of the Ring as a whole, I thought was a very good show. I I did enjoy it. I didn't think there was anything that I was like rolling my eyes up, say one thing, which I'm going to get into. Liv Morgan and Becky Lynch actually had a 16-minute match, and it actually was an entertaining match. The storylines it was interesting with Dominic getting involved and how that was all set up. Thought Becky Lynch's outfit was a little interesting. It looks like she was wearing a tuxedo in the ring, and I was like, where does she come up with this stuff?
Yeah, it looked
Uh,
weird.
yeah. Considering for years Sami Zayn refused to go to the Saudi Arabian shows, man, what a reaction that guy's getting.
So what I learned before, it wasn't that he was refusing. It was that I don't think he could go. Much
Why is
like
that?
how MVP can't go to Saudi Arabia. Like he
Interesting.
can't go. Like if he goes there, he's going to have trouble. And there was a point where because of Sammy's heritage, he couldn't go to those shows, which was why Kevin Owens wouldn't go because he wanted to kind of stick up for his friend. But
Because
I
I
always
understood
thought
it
he
had to
was
do
taking a
something.
political stand about it.
Right, that's what I thought. I thought it had to do with Syria and the Saudi
Yeah, I thought
Arabian
it was
relationship.
a political stance.
It
Yeah.
was part political, but also because he could not physically enter the country, which
But you're
was
not, but you're
I
not
don't
something
think
telling
that
I've
us.
ever
shocked
heard of
me.
that.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
hadn't heard about it until the first time he went, and I was shocked to find that out.
Okay. I don't know. I never read that one. Yeah, Nia Jax, Lyra Valkyria. Look, Nia Jax, she's improved. In this run, she is much better than she was in a previous run. So I will give her that. That finish was vicious.
It
Ooh,
was.
I
I thought she
mean,
was dead.
my God, I was like when Lyra hit the mat, I like cringed and almost jumped out of my seat because that looked like it freaking hurt. Very original, creative ending. I will give them that. I'm gonna come back to the King of the Ring tournament final, and Cody and Logan Paul. I wasn't that excited about. Whatever it was, what it was. We had our false finishes and what have you, and you know, whatever. Good for Cody, I guess. He didn't completely get outsmarted. He didn't lose the title, but he didn't get the U.S. title either. And I griped about that already. All right, Gunther Randy Orton. I was thoroughly enjoying this match. I was going to go as far as saying match of the year. Randy Orton selling throughout that match. Any of these new guys that don't know how to sell and think everything's a spot fest, I encourage you to watch that match. And then the ending happened.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where my gripe is. And it's not just on WWE here. So this is going to be a mini rant. I don't want people shutting this thing off or stop playing whatever the video or the audio, whichever way you prefer to join us. The shoulder was clearly up, and the referee kept counting. The same thing happened at WrestleMania 35 with Ronda Rousey, Charlotte, and Becky Lynch in that match. Same freaking thing happened. And I was just like, oh my God, this was a match of the year candidate, and you just fucking blew it in the last 3 seconds. Why would you count? Stop worrying so much about the freaking script and storyline. You're also supposed to act like it's a legitimate contest and a legitimate athletic competition. You know what I'm saying? And then we go to the AEW the next night. And there was a spot in the first match with Osprey and Strong. The referee's yelling at Mike Bennett, and fucking Matt Taven hits the ropes, does a dive, like past the referee, as the referee's looking out like this. You didn't come on. You didn't see him coming over your shoulder. Then he turns around and Wardlow's in the ring, and he just orders him to get out. And I'm like, this is a disqualification at this point. Can we book this any better? And I'm not blaming the booking necessarily, but it makes the referees look stupid. So what is the referee in there for?
Well, didn't he miss too? I thought when
I
he,
think you might be right.
I
Who
think he missed
cares?
them too. Or yeah, because I think Pac went down and never got hit.
I don't care. It was so blatantly obvious. You're yelling at one guy for interfering, and another guy's going right over the shoulder, and you don't do anything. And that Wardlow's reaction was hilarious. He just kind of shrugged and walked out of the ring, and I was like, and I laughed at that, but I was just like, my God, the referees have no credibility. And then in a situation like the King of the Ring finals, when they have some credibility, you didn't have to count. These guys are too professionals. Let them come up with another finish on the fly for screwing it up. But he just dropped down and did the count. He never even looked at the shoulders. Stop making the referees need to treat it like a real thing, for crying out loud. Otherwise, you look stupid. There's a reason why they can't show Becky Lynch pinning Ronda for a full 3 count, because they fucked it up. And now we have the same thing here. And thank God for WWE at least referencing it and saying the referee's decision was final. Yes, there was a screw up. Doesn't matter. I started wondering if it was in the script because they wanted to do Gunther Orton 2 at Clash of the Castle or something. So hats off to them for trying to do something with it. But my God, don't even have the referees do anything but a 3 count then if they have no justification. And make sure they learn how to do a proper 3 count. I mean, how many times do we see like some guys in a submission hold, like a figure 4, and the referees check the shoulders and start doing the count if need be, or the surfboard. The guy that's giving the surfboard, if his shoulders are on the mat, they start counting. But this, blatantly obvious, the shoulders up and you just keep counting? Come on. All right.
Do you think they're just too tied to the script and they're afraid to
Yes.
deviate?
Yes, wasn't there a story years ago that they told the referees treat it like a real thing. They weren't giving them the finishes, and there were a couple times at the house shows that there were screw ups and guys ended up losing that weren't supposed to. Oh well.
It didn't. I think Edge won the Intercontinental title like that once. He won it for a day and then lost it right back the next day. I think it was an accidental 3 count.
I've also heard. I thought, folks, you could correct me if I'm wrong. I think Jarrett on his podcast, My World, actually did say that was planned, but I don't know. I think they figured it was a one-day thing. Actually, I think it was a case that Vince wasn't there. Pat Patterson was running the show and said, what the hell? Run the title change. We'll just we'll fix it the next night. I don't know. If you go to My World, I think Jared covered that on one of his episodes. If you could get through one of his show episodes. I used to try to listen to his stuff, but you think I'm ranting right now. Go listen to his. He's like brainstorming his thoughts as he's talking, so it ends up taking like 5 minutes to get one thought out of his head. So, okay.
Many guitar shots to the head.
Yeah, right. I mean, am I off the mark on this referee thing? Am I wrong? Am I taking this too seriously, or do I have a case here? Because I'm really fed up with it. I really am.
I think sometimes it's not that it happens a lot, because it doesn't. But when it happens, it's just so noticeable. Like that was, especially when you consider WWE, which is usually great with catching the right angles for everything. It was just such a glaring one. Yeah. And even when they did the replays,
they tried to change the angle.
They did, but Corey Graves called it out. It was in the back who said, "Can we get that from another angle?"
It was Corey Graves.
That was maybe the smartest thing. That might have saved them in terms of credibility, saying, "Oh, okay, I think someone messed up."
Except they tried to
cover it.
They didn't ever showed it.
Well, no, they showed it one more time. And then he said, "Wait, I think," and it's like they tried to cut him off.
Well, he said, "I want to see another angle of it," because they showed it from behind, like from his perspective, because that was the only. And even then, you could see the shoulder was up, but it wasn't as bad as the angle they showed live.
If I'm not mistaken, hadn't that in that match, didn't the table get messed up? So they just had to watch from their angle, from where the commentators normally sit. And I think that made sense why the announcers didn't pick it up in the moment, because they were just looking straight. So the angle that they showed us in the replay that made it look like, oh, maybe they got him, that's the angle they were looking from. And that made sense. But still, they could have used it. And they usually use it.
If you want me to go a rant on the having breakaway tables that you can reassemble and break them again in the next match, we could have an entire episode just on that alone. Don't get me started on that shit. Okay. So,
yes. So
double or nothing.
Take us right into double or nothing then.
All right. So double or nothing. Look, it was another really good show. Don't get me wrong. But when I went to start it, and I'm fully admitting I did not watch it live. I don't think any of us did. And as I started, I see 4 hours, 30 minutes, and I was like, you got to be effing kidding me. People are complaining it's too long, and they made it longer. I'm like, really? Enough. You don't need a 4.5 hour show, especially with the AEW faithful, to keep them interested and entertained and what have you. If you want to go as far as 3.5, fine. The other thing is, they run their show, they have so many pay-per-views now too. So it's like, at least WWE we're getting 2.5, 3 hour. We might get 2.5 for NXT. You might get 3, just a shade over 3 for the regulars, or maybe like WrestleMania, you might get 3.5 to 4, making it special. AEW is consistently going 4 hours, and now in this case, and maybe because Double or Nothing, it was the 5-year anniversary. Yeah, okay, 4.5, whatever. I cringed. And the other issue I have with AEW shows is the flow, meaning they go from match to match to match to match to match. There's no breathing room. I mean, I joke about Peacock and WWE having commercials in. That gives me a chance to go, if I'm watching live, go to the bathroom, go get a snack, something, breathe, look at my phone. AEW, you can't. So I found that there were times I was messing around on my phone and not totally watching the match because I was like, Jesus Christ, I'm not getting a break here. I mean, yes, I could have hit the pause button at that point. I get that, but if you're watching live, or if you're in the arena, like in the arena, you want to go buy merchandise, you want to go buy snacks. Maybe you have to go to the bathroom. When did you get a chance to do that with their shows? You might as well do like the announcers and wear an adult diaper. Be a real shitty situation.
I'm just gonna pause with that and imagine Taz in the diaper, just being Taz. Yes. All right, please continue.
Let me tell you, brother. No.
Depends, Jones.
Yeah, right. Yeah, the I mean, like I said, very good show. I'd say borderline great. I don't think it was. I think it was better. I guess it was better than last year's. I barely remembered last year's. I had to go look it up because I heard comparisons to that. The Arnica in the arena match was fun. I'm going to be honest. I thought hanging Darby Allin upside down, hanging him from the ceiling to begin with, was kind of in bad taste when you got Dr. Martha Hart there announcing that 1 cup earlier in the show. Yeah, nobody thought about that one. The Jack Perry fire spot, that was so well done. He lit up and the extinguishers are right there.
Okay.
I got a kick out of that.
Question for you, and both of you tell me if this was me. I kept thinking, wait, were Jack Perry and Tony Khan supposed to already be out there? Because it seemed like they lost track of them at some point, and then suddenly there's Darby Allin with the flamethrower. Wait, and then suddenly he has to go wait for Perry and Khan to come back out. And I was like, wait, did that timing get messed up or something?
I don't
Because it
think
seemed kind of weird.
I thought it was supposed. I thought it. See, I didn't think of it that way. I thought if Darby was, let's say, if Darby was already out there waiting for them, and I'm Jack Perry, I'm not going out there now. The way it was timed, I thought, and the way angle it was done, I was like, oh, Jack Perry didn't even realize he was there until it was too late. I thought
Okay,
I just thought it was funny that 2 seconds later, the Bucks were already there with the extinguishers. Yeah. I was like, man, you didn't waste any time. he lit up, and like 3 seconds later, he was out. Yeah, I mean, there were a lot of matches. They were filler in my mind, but they were still good. I didn't need to see Moxley and Takeshita. Very good match. Don't get me wrong. Cassidy and Trent Beretta, I think that could have been on the buy-in. Ospreay defeating Roderick Strong, fine. That we knew that was coming. And I think we'll talk about the Adam Cole and Malachi Black match at the end. As a match as a whole, I thought, yeah, it was funny. It reminded me, when it started, it reminded me of when Dean Ambrose faced Chris Jericho in an Asylum match. I think it was. It was like a steel cage with weapons in WWE, and I was like, this is like the same thing all over again. Because I thought it was just going to be barbed wire on the top, which I was kind of like, how did the feud get to this point? But then I was like, well, it's House of Black. They always have interesting stipulations. Fine. I thought the match was entertaining enough, but I think there's one spot that we're all going to talk about, so I'm going to save comment till we get to that topic. And then Stokely and Chris Stanland are both turning on Mercedes or Willow. I didn't see coming. I figured it was going to be Stokely. Never thought Statlander was going to be involved, so I thought that was pretty well done. Especially when Statlander flexed her bicep and Stokely kissed, and I was like, "Oh my god, bro!" I don't think Stokely gets enough credit for his mic skills.
He's a treasure as well. As much as everybody talks about some people on the mic being a national treasure, Stokely is a national treasure on both the mic and perhaps on social media. They just zero chill whatsoever. Any remaining thoughts about the show? Devil's Advocate, how about yourself?
I have to agree. These shows, even though they're really good, they're like a slog. Like after a while, I get tired. Like I can't sit and watch these all in one shot because I just get tired. It's relentless. It's like watching a 4-hour action movie with no plot twist.
Snyder cut Justice League. That's how they need to break it up.
Yeah, I mean, I need an intermission. I need a commercial. I actually want a commercial. And like I said, I don't watch these live. Um, Overall, I thought it was a good show. Uh, my problem now, and I think we're going to talk about this in a little while, is what's happening after the fact. So when we get to that part, I'll go on about that. But uh, the other problem I have is your world title. I'm going to go back to your world title match should be your main event. I feel like Swerve is not the main focus anymore. His matches aren't the last ones on Dynamite. His matches are. I mean, they called it a triple main event, but he wasn't the last match. He should be the last match. The world title should be the last match. Always, unless you've got a special attraction like an Ospreay Danielson is the only thing I can think of right now that should be like a that can maybe supersede the world champion, but the world champion should always be on last.
So I'm gonna capitalize on what you're saying, and I granted this is 15 years ago, WrestleMania 25. We had Shawn Michaels versus Undertaker, and then we had Triple H versus Randy Orton for the championship. Triple H, Randy Orton went on last. Everybody I talked to thought for sure Shawn Michaels Undertaker should have gone on
All right,
last.
but
So
I
that goes
said that
against your theory.
there are certain circumstances that certain matches supersede, and
So
Michaels Undertaker would be one.
okay, you
But
don't think Anarchy in the Arena was built up or the bigger draw than Swerve Strickland versus Christian Cage? Because
no,
as
I
much
don't.
as much as I don't like the Bucks, they're killing it right now.
Right.
I agree with that the placement in
All
this
right.
case.
I mean, we can agree
I
to
would.
disagree. I just
I
don't think
just want to
that
jump
match
in there
belongs
with
at
you.
the end.
Right, I just want to jump in there with you too, because normally I am firmly, and I think I even said this with you last week. I'm firmly in the world title needs to be the main event of your shows. Firmly in that camp with you. However, I think it would have been unusually cruel to put that match on after
Yeah.
Anarchy in the
All right. I
Arena
can see that. I can
in
see
this
that.
instance, because I mean, as it is, those shows are draining enough.
Yeah.
Like,
All right. I can
No,
see it because I guess with the Anarchy in the Arena, you're making a mess too, right? So now
right.
you got to
yeah,
clean it all up and have a traditional wrestling match come out after and mayhem and chaos. I'll
yeah.
give you that.
Yeah, I
But I
mean
still think Swerve's reign is not being given the credit it deserves. I still
that
don't
that
think
I
he's
agree
the
with.
focus.
Yes,
That I agree
you're
with. Hey,
correct.
So
I, I mean, if we did go with world title match on last during the WCW days, we would have had Swerve and Nana facing Christian and Killswitch and Nick Wayne and Mother Wayne and oh my God, what's the gates, the Cage of Agony or whatever they're calling themselves, that the
Gates of Agony.
Gates of Agony. No, but no, they had a different name because it got made fun
Oh, the
of.
Cage of Agony
It
now
was
with the
Cage of
Fiend.
Oh
Agony.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
So, and they would have had Strickland and Prince Nana go over all of them if this is WCW booking. So let's at least give him credit for that. But yeah, no, I agree. Swerve Strickland's title reign became second fiddle, and it's because Tony Khan got his wet dream, Will Ospreay and Okada under contract. Let's be honest.
I mean, the two matches I would have dropped the Beretta Cassidy match, and I would have dropped the world title, the IWGP match. It seemed unnecessary. If you're not going to have, uh, you know, uh, if you're going to have Moxley win, it seems like a waste of time. I don't know what the point of that match was.
You know what? If you want to sell the pay
Takeshita
per
should have
view,
won.
yeah, if you want to sell the pay per view with the buy-in show, putting Moxley to Keston, that would be a mind blower to put on for free because that was a
Well, I
really
mean,
good match.
they could have
Eh,
set that up for the Forbidden Door. They could have had a rematch set up where Takeshita won, and Moxley's like, I can't believe I lost. This guy's, it would have made him a made man, and that would have been an instant rematch for Forbidden Door. And Moxley could have gotten the win back and retained the title. I don't, as a non-title match, I think Takeshita should have won.
I I could understand your point. I suspect that the New Japan, the actual, and I think I read this somewhere, the IWGP Championship matches are actually decided on by New Japan, and I think that's why they wanted Moxley on this AEW car. New Japan didn't necessarily approve of Takeshita getting a title shot. That's why I think we're seeing these eliminator matches. Because didn't we get another one on Dynamite with Romero getting a title shot or an eliminator match? And I was like, what? Why are we doing this? What are we gonna have an eliminator match all the time just to get Moxley on? Then put him in a straight one-on-one match. It doesn't have to be an eliminator match. Who cares if he's a draw? I get because he's the IWGP champion. They feel like they got to do some sort of stipulation, but I'm like, or have him ringside watching contenders fight out for a chance to face him. Something, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Especially because Takeshita beating Moxley. I mean, he's beaten Omega a couple times. You know, it's not like he hasn't beaten some big names. So, okay, I could see that. Moxley losing to Romero this week. Did anyone think that was going to happen? More so, you know what I mean, compared to this one?
No, yeah. Yeah, I mean, I got a problem with this week's Dynamite, but we'll get to that.
We got a lot of problems on this show.
Anything else stand out there for you from Sunday's show? Advocate?
He wanted to throw up when he saw Mercedes Monet's little red circles on her outfit.
I'll say it again. I don't get her. I mean, I don't have anything else to say about the pay-per-view. I'd like to talk about Dynamite if we're all in agreement.
Yeah, I'd say I'm largely in agreement with you guys. It's just so much show every time. It's just so much show, and I think even their filler matches are 20 minutes. It's like, I don't know, man. I do like the wrestling. They go at it, but it's like you could shave 5 minutes off every match by just eliminating a few spots where they kick out of a finisher. Like per match, you could knock off 30 minutes at least from every show. And yeah, I don't know why they won't do it. But I will say this is the thing that stood out for me. And I think I texted this to you earlier. The opening for Anarchy in the Arena, the first maybe 5 minutes of it were to me hilarious, where they kept playing the theme music. And I guess it was Nicholas Jackson who just kept trying to get them to shut stuff off. And then Danielson saying, "No, play some real music," and they play Final Countdown. And then Nicholas Jackson taking the mic saying, "Turn it off! It's cost $200,000 every time we play this.
Mm-hmm.
We have a budget." I enjoyed that. Aside from that, I don't know. It was fine, I guess. I just love them to have 1 3-hour show.
I mean, I think Tony Khan thinks he's giving you your money's worth by giving you that many matches.
And I get it.
He's not, though.
It's
more
too
is not
exhausting.
better.
Yeah, especially on a Sunday. If you're going to do that, you have to do Saturday shows.
Yeah.
Because people got to work, man.
Well, it was Memorial Day weekend. I will give you that.
But still, on a normal basis, it's 4 hours plus on a Sunday.
I almost slept past a barbecue,
or start at
man.
6 then. You know, I mean, like, I don't know.
Yeah, or start at 6. Yes, very true. Which I guess would have been like what, 4 p.m. in Vegas or whatever. Still worth it.
I tell you, the one time I went to a UFC fight in Vegas, and it was the Cormier Miocic fight that Brock got into the cage afterwards, and then nothing came of it. I remember walking out of the arena with my buddy, and I looked at him, I was like, "Wait a second, it's like 9:30. It's 9:30. It's not 1:30 in the morning. Oh my God, we can still do stuff. We can still go eat. We can still do." It's definitely different in the West Coast when you're watching live, because at least, you know, it's not like early morning where you're like, "How the hell am I still awake?" Kind of like how Rob's yawning right now. It could be me talking now. Could be me talking.
Well, guys,
before we get
oh yes, go right ahead.
Before we get to Dynamite, though.
Yes.
We all skipped over one big issue that came out of Double or Nothing, and it had to do with Adam Copeland.
Well, I
Yeah,
was going to get into that,
I think we
Okay.
should
but
get into it.
let's
All right.
let's let's
Well,
go then.
it
All right,
sounds
so
like Rob. It sounds like Rob has a lead in there. Go ahead, Rob.
yeah,
Well, I mean, they have this pay-per-view and they have a lot of momentum, right? There's some good things that came out of it. And then we could turn on Dynamite, and to me, they've destroyed all of the momentum they had. So let me break it down for you guys, and you guys let me comment, and then you guys can, give me your thoughts on that. So first of all, during the pay-per-view, we see Adam Copeland, like Anthony was alluding to, get hurt. Why didn't they call an audible? If he knew he was hurt, why didn't he relate that to the referee and have Malachi Black win?
He actually makes
Because he,
Mercedes Moné look better by doing that. Did he say? And I watched the video. Did he say that he knew he was injured instantly? Because I didn't see him limping until the match was already over, and I thought, what did did
he
he have
knew
so
he
much
was hurt.
adrenaline he had no idea?
so to that
He
point,
knew
he
he
knew
was
he
hurt.
was
I don't think he
hurt.
knew how bad.
Yeah,
Okay.
and so from what he said in that video, he had a fracture. And if you know anything about fractures, they can be kind of funny because you can do everything you normally do on one until the adrenaline wears off. And then you realize something's really wrong. So as opposed to maybe a minor hurt that you get during a match from jumping off a cage, um, I don't think he realized exactly how hurt he was. But that still being said, come on.
All right. So they don't do that. So they come back the next night and they say he's hurt, and the Bucks very funnily try to hand the belt over to Jack Perry, and now they've decided they're going to do a ladder match. All right. So typical AEW, they go a little too far, but all right, I can live with that part. At least we're gonna get some tournament matches out of it, and we'll see who's winning. We have MJF come back, and oh my God, the fans are excited, and I'm excited too. I think it could be interesting getting him to the mix. Things have changed a little bit. Why wasn't he on their Dynamite? Why have him come back at a pay-per-view and then not have him make an appearance on regular TV? We have John Moxley wrestling with basically one arm, right, against Rocky Romero, who's been a jobber to everybody. So like, there's no chance Rocky Romero's going to win. Why do we have to have Moxley in the ring? They have so many other wrestlers. Have Moxley do an interview and have somebody else wrestle. It didn't make any sense. Like, are we beating Moxley into the ground here? Like, are we trying to kill him? I understand he's doing like the whole "I'm a tough guy and I fight" and all that, but it didn't seem necessary. Um, why is the Orange Cassidy Trent Beretta feud continuing? It seems to me Orange Cassidy's won both matches clean. So why are we moving on to that? Like, why? I couldn't figure it out. I'm like, I don't care either. Um, why is Swerve fighting Killswitch? Isn't the Christian Cage thing over? It seems like that should have been a match that should have happened a few weeks ago, not after Christian Cage. Like, Christian Cage is not getting into the match, so that match seemed misplaced. Didn't make any sense. And then Anthony wrote, I think you wrote Saraya versus Mariah taken off the show with no mention. Like, if that match was announced, why didn't it happen? And if it didn't happen, why didn't they tell us?
Well, and I actually read that Mariah had actually posted a tweet that basically indicated that she was frustrated and getting fed up with the situation there. So I thought it was odd that she hasn't been on lately. So when they announce a match and she's not, doesn't even appear, something's going on there.
Okay. My biggest problem is they have this match at the end, right? Battle Royal kind of deal, Royal Rumble kind of deal, guys coming out. You got Pac and you got Jay White and you got Mystico and you got guys like, you got CML guys, you got New Japan guys. And I was like, wow, it's kind of cool. Like, it's a nice kind of mixture. Number one, really wasn't promoted. So like, certain guys came out and you were like, who the hell is this guy? Like, why is this guy even in this match? Like, I don't understand why he's here. My biggest problem is who won. Will Ospreay. Do I have a problem with Will Ospreay? No. Do I want to see Will Ospreay and Swerve Strickland? Yes. Do I want to see it soon? No. I think that's a match you build up to. I mean, Ospreay has the international title, and now he's going right after the world title. Like, why wouldn't you want to keep those guys separate for as long as you can? That is a money making match. That is going to be a great match. 6 months from now, a year from now, there are so many other contenders you could mix in for both guys, where you have Ospreay beating everybody and Swerve beating everybody, and it starts to become inevitable. Like, who's the only guy I haven't beaten while I've been here? I haven't beaten Will Ospreay. And if I'm Swerve, and I'm Will Ospreay, I'm like, well, the only title I haven't won is the world title. So you have the potential to build this huge match where these guys, they have to meet at some point because it's inevitable. There's nobody else. They've beaten everybody else, and instead it's like they're rushing to the finish line, and it's like, I don't know why. I mean, there's plenty of world title contenders they could have thrown in front of either one, or international title contenders that they could have thrown in front of these guys to keep them busy for the next 6 months, a year even. Maybe that have this be your main event next year's Double or Nothing, since it's your anniversary card. I don't know why they're rushing it for. What's the, why you've got money on the table and you can't wait to spend it? Why?
Mm.
Long-term booking.
Two words they seem to love throwing around there in AEW. Dream match. And they love to advertise dream matches. And I noticed this a few years ago. They just, as soon as somebody shows up, gotta have the dream match.
Yeah, no, I get it.
Within a month. Within a month, you gotta have the dream match. And I'm just thinking, when you say that, I'm thinking about them doing the exact opposite in the build up to King of the Ring in the qualifier matches, where you have Gunther and Dragunov now on the same show. You know they're going to end up in another match, and it's going to be another match of the year contender. And they teased them, and they said, "No, we're not giving that to you in a semifinal.
We're not
We
going to
don't
see
need
on
to do that
TV.
now. You're not giving that away on TV. We're not giving this away a couple weeks in. No, you're going to wait for those two to get into it." And just a little bit of patience would be so nice from these guys.
Long-term booking. That's the last thing I'm going to say. Long-term
Yeah.
booking. This is how you book long-term. I want these two guys to meet. I want them to meet at Double or Nothing. How are we going to get them there? And Tony Khan, like you said, he's got the baseball cards and he can't wait to play. He's putting on, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. No, dude, somebody's got to look, man, we got money here. Let's figure out how to get there. Let's sit down, let's put all of our heads together and figure out how are we going to move these guys? Who are we going to put? And if you think about it, you've got a year's worth of challengers. You know who's going to challenge who and what. And really the only thing that could screw it up is injury. Right? If somebody gets hurt along the way. But other than that, Swerve gets a great long reign out of it. You want to put the title on Ospreay at some point. Have him earn it. If you have him come in and run the table, what's the difference? Who cares? People are going to forget. Right? But he could make the international title something. Swerve can make the world title something. And when they meet, it'll be like you know what I liken it to. I don't know if you guys remember when Sabu and Taz, everybody wanted Sabu and Taz, and they kept teasing it and teasing it and teasing it. And you were like, Jesus Christ, when are these guys going to fight? And when they finally did, it was like the release you were waiting for. It's that kind of build. It's Cody and Roman in a way. Like, we really want this match. We really, 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 really want it. We didn't get it right away, right? So that's all I'm saying. They've got the talent. They're missing that component, that long-term booking type thing. And not everything has to be long-term, but I think that one should be. So I've ranted long enough. Anthony, you want to run?
I don't think this is a dream matchup. I really don't. I had somebody.
I didn't say, for the record, I didn't say I thought it was. I said that's how they like to advertise these
I,
things.
it wasn't based on what you were saying. I don't think this match needs a long build. I don't think this is when people turn on AEW and they know the rosters that Swerve versus Osprey is the match they're looking for. I think there's bigger matches than that. I was talking to a coworker today who I admittedly only finished watching the show right before we came on the air. And he said, "Oh my God, the ending of the Gauntlet Battle Royal and number one contender. I don't believe they did this. So stupid, blah, blah, blah." And when I saw Leo Rush come out, I thought, oh God, please no. When I saw Mystico come out, I thought, oh God, we're going to get fucking Sin Cara versus. So when Osprey won, I was like, what was this guy complaining about? Great. I don't think this match requires a big build. I don't think it's a match people are necessarily clamoring for. I think the show is Forbidden Door. They wanted to get Osprey on the card, and they already have. I'm pretty sure we're going to see Okada versus Danielson at Forbidden Door. That's where I think that's going. I think that's why the odd pairing of Bryan Danielson in Anarchy in the Arena with FTR and with Darby Allin against the Elite. I was like, but isn't he Blackpool Combat Club? Why is he keep branching off from them and doing his own thing? Why do they even have that group anymore at this point? I think. First off, we got 3 men's singles titles beneath the world title, right? The Continental, we have the TNT, and we have the International. Which title is the highest of those 3? Because I don't freaking know. And I think they need to find that placing, define which one is the highest of the 3. Like when WCW had the US title and the TV title, you knew that US title was right below the world title. And the TV title was underneath that. We don't know that with AEW. I also said when that international title got rebranded, because if I remember correctly, it was a different branding, wasn't it? It wasn't
Yes.
international. It was Atlantic or something.
Yeah, something like that.
Some Atlantic, something like that.
All Atlantic, wasn't it?
Oh,
Yeah,
thank you.
that's it. All Atlantic.
And I remember when they said international, I was like, but isn't technically the world title international as well? I think I think if I were them, and I'm not going to give them credit for thinking of this yet, I think there should be a title unification because the titles, international and world, mean the same fucking thing. Now you got the international champion facing the world champion. Let's get rid of one of those belts, preferably the international. And the story done. Because it doesn't make sense otherwise. So I'm okay with this match. It's not a match I was claiming for. If you want to get it out of the way, fine. And I know there are occasions that long-term booking needs to be done. I think for a world title, depending on who the opposition is, maybe. I don't feel like Swerve Strickland has been around or long enough as a top player where there's any opponent out there that we want to see that long-term booking built up over time. That's just my opinion. So I'm okay with this the way it is right now. I don't have a problem with it. I just feel bad for Swerve Strickland because, yes, this, and I'm going to say this pretty much for all the world championships, not just in AEW, but also WWE. None of them are really being booked to a wow factor right now. Let's be honest. Cody versus Logan? Really? Bailey wasn't even featured this past weekend, right? Damian Priest, they're setting him up for Drew. He wasn't involved. Becky versus Liv. I hate to say it because I'm not a Becky or Liv fan. That might have been the best booked title match this past weekend. Maybe just behind Christian. Maybe Christian and Swerve I might give a slight nod, but not by much. And what did they end up doing? They had Christian basically have Swerve's lackeys turn on him. What came out of that? One match? No. I'm hoping this is a title unification. I'm totally fine with this. I don't think this specific match requires a long-term build because I don't think the fan interest is going to be on that level. That's just my opinion. And now we got MJF back in the fold too, so it's a matter of time before he's back in the title picture. So, okay.
That's a fair point. I think for AEW's fan base, I think they'd be familiar. Their main their niche market that they like to cater to the most. Those people I think would be most aware of the history with Osprey and Swerve, and that they kind of came up with each other and some of their early stuff together. So I think there's a history there that you could build something off of. My issue with it is more of if you just put a title on a guy, why have him go for another title? I just don't like it. I don't like unless it's a title unification or a title, that makes sense. But then you can set that up, not just have it happen by chance of I can't remember what they called that gauntlet match that they had, but also he won the same gauntlet match in order to get his shot at the international title too. So I I was kind of like, okay, yeah, sure, do the same thing twice. Um I want to go back to Sunday night because um Devil's Advocate mentioned it. Um Adam Copeland. All right. I feel like we can all agree the wrong person won that match, and it has nothing to do with an injury. It has everything to do with the fact that we just saw the exact same cage match with the exact same outcome happen in WWE, not what, 6 months prior? 7 months prior or something like that. Might as well have just been a week ago. And you would think that having watched another company do it and make the same mistake, they would have learned a lesson and said, hey, maybe we need to use this as an opportunity to get a title on this person who could really use it. And they didn't do that. And then to add injury to insult, man fractured his tibia, so he can't wrestle. So I guess my question to you guys is because I feel like it's the question that comes out of a lot of what you guys said too is, well, what are we doing? Just what is that? Why are they so hesitant to put like to greenlight these guys? Um, you know, they did it with Swerve. I'm almost still in shock that he still holds the title. Um, I was almost in shock that he won. I feel like it happened months after we all had agreed that it was inevitable that he needed to have that championship, and it just seemed they didn't want to pull the trigger. And it's not like these are rookies we're talking about. Like, Malachi Black's a very capable guy, and he has a good charisma, and he has a good faction, and he has all this stuff.
Hot wife.
And a hot wife, yes.
But he had
Very true.
two guys, and he couldn't beat one guy. So it's 3-on-1, and he couldn't beat him.
Exactly.
Hey, Gangrel was a great run-in choice. I mean, I really believe he should be taking Brody King and Buddy Matthews out the way he did.
Hey, vampires have, deceptive strength. I've read in books before, so there you go. And they're ageless. He
Gangrel did not look ageless.
no,
I gotta say, for his age, I actually was like, you know what? He doesn't look as bad as I thought he would.
No, I mean,
I'm
I'm
never
not saying he
mad at
looked bad,
Gangrel.
but
I'll let
he didn't
Gangrel
look
get your
ageless.
money, but
Right. He didn't look
it's
ageless. He looked aged.
a little aged, a little bit, a little
But who doesn't?
couple
You know
of
what I mean?
crow's
Like,
feet
come
there.
on. I just thought it was. I'm like, wow, he came and win with two other guys. Holy shit.
Yeah, yeah.
All right. They really don't want to put the title on him.
That's what
Well,
I don't get. And I say that because I'm thinking of some of the other people they've done that with, and they just didn't seem to know what to do with them. And maybe this is my me wanting to transition to another topic here, but I'm thinking of a guy like Ethan Page. for they didn't know what to do with him.
Scorpio
And
Sky.
Scorpio Sky, they didn't know what to do with him. Um, when not Rusev, but the artist formerly known as Rusev was actually in the
Miro.
country, they didn't know what to do with him.
They still don't know what to do with Wardlow.
Nope. And hopefully his contract doesn't run out before they figure it out. I they've been around for 5 years now, AEW. And I feel like 2 years ago we had a discussion wondering if they'd make it to even 5 years, and now they have, and that's cool. And they're getting some ratings boost, I heard this week, and that's good for them. And I don't know, it's
Them and NXT both increased. But,
yes, NXT did also, which we'll talk about momentarily. But yeah,
the
what are they
exact thing.
doing?
Well, and I recall 2 years ago. I don't recall us saying is AEW going to last because I think we all knew the con money that wasn't going
Right.
to be an issue.
Very true.
I think the question was we were being, and you specifically were questioning that we were being too hard on them. They were still a baby. They were still a new company. We need to give them like 4 or 5 years to figure it out. Well, it's gotten
Here's your 5
worse,
years.
not better.
Yeah. Here's your
Right.
5
And
years, and it's like they've done some stuff well, but not enough of that stuff well.
It's basically the length of the pay-per-view matches and the quality of them. Most of them is what they do well. The build-up, the story, lack of storyline. They're still screwing up left and right, and it's getting worse. Their story. I don't think this is fair, personally, but I'm seeing stories comparing it to last-minute 2019 WWE style booking from Vince. That it's gotten to that level. I don't necessarily believe that. I'm sure it's not perfect. I'm sure in some cases that might be the case. I really don't think it's on that level. I think a dirt sheet needed a story personally.
I don't think it's there. I think Tony Khan decides, hey, we're doing this, and nobody can change a thing. Hey, I just signed so and so. We're doing this, and no matter what happens, that's what they do.
I'm not denying that. It's the theory that apparently now the stories that the day of the show they're finding, in some cases they're finding out what they're doing, and that the day before show people that haven't been booked to appear at the show are all of a sudden being contacted and saying, "Hey, we need you here tomorrow. How can you get here?" And I don't believe. I think that's the dirt sheet trying to get some clicks. I really do. I don't think it's that extreme. And I'm not usually defending AEW. Go ahead.
Go.
I had something to say about Copeland, but
please, please.
Okay. Well, I read something, and I think it was on Reddit, and somebody shared something that didn't even pop into my head because I thought Copeland was there, to help groom the next generation. And then Malachi Blackness, he's not a rookie. He's a veteran. Let's be honest here. I question whether he's getting booked that much better than he was, at least with NXT. WWE, Vince, whatever. I'm okay with that, but I even feel like his AEW booking is not where he'd like it or should be. As far as Copeland goes, we mentioned the injury, and if he was injured, why didn't he call an audible? I question the fact, and we said it earlier, I think we all across the board said, why didn't you have Black winning to begin with? So Copeland came back as Edge, WrestleMania 36, Randy Orton. He's only lost one feud since his return to Roman Reigns. Yet we seem to let him off the hook. You know what I mean? Other veteran, like I myself got ticked off that Sting was winning all the time. Doesn't seem like Copeland's any better. I mean, nobody was allowed to be Roman Reigns for years, so whatever.
I find that interesting, and
the
reason I do is because I'm putting it in context with remembering when the Nexus came out, and Edge was one of the people who was so vehemently against John Cena's suggestion to go over the Nexus, and he was one of the people saying, no, these guys need the win. And then turned out he was right. Those guys needed the win. And while you hear Cena talk about it as a teaching point in his career, you'd think Copeland would remember that now. And now I'm not saying he has that kind of pull and that he's got final say in who wins and who loses and all that. But it just that's a lot. That's a long time to go without losing a feud. I don't know. What do you think about the rated R superstar, Rob? I mean, as a devil's advocate, that would be your guy, right?
I, I think I said it earlier that I don't think he's putting people over. I mean, he put Christian over,
You did. I was listening to you, brother.
but I think I think Tony Khan to watch Tony Khan run it says a lot about him, and
Did you
I
see
think
the
he's
video of him trying to roll out of the way?
yes, that's what I'm talking about. It seemed very not masculine, let's say. He didn't look very manly doing that. I think I think certain people get his ear, and that's it. And I think Copeland's one of those guys where yes, he deserves all the respect in the world. He is a veteran, but he's certainly not looking out for AEW's best interest. He's looking out for his own because he's now gone through all three members of the House of Black, and the House of Black, Buddy Matthews ran him through the ringer. Brody King ran him through the ringer. It made sense that Malachi Black should reap the benefits and win. And maybe the problem is once they took the wedding ring off his finger, they cursed themselves because how's he going to lose? He's got to get his wedding ring back. So maybe that part of the feud cursed it that he couldn't win. But I mean, to me, a veteran, you're in the ring and you know you're hurt or you're starting to feel like you're hurt, you should say something. And even before that, how does it benefit anyone by him winning 3 matches in a row against if the House of Black is now they're nothing now again? And we've said it. I don't know why they won't pull the trigger on Malachi Black. He would be a great TBS champion. I can see him pulling like the old Arn Anderson thing where he's running. He's evading the time. There's like a 10-minute time limit on each match, and he's like jumping outside the ring and doing all the kind of things that Arn Anderson used to do. Delaying time and stuff, and people just having the devil, excuse my pun, the devil of time beating him. I think he could be entertaining. I honestly think at this point Copeland should be a special attraction. His body isn't holding up. He's hurt again. So why they put him on the regular roster and running him out week after week is beyond me. He should be a special attraction. Just like Danielson wants to be. Like you got to start listening to your body. And his body is starting to tell him that spot, I don't know why he even agreed to do that spot. That was insane. He should have never even tried it. Sting, say what you want about Sting. I know it drove Anthony crazy, but Sting was throwing his body around like a maniac, and he could take it. Like his body was built for it.
Copeland thought
Copeland is
he
not.
could.
Well, that's what I mean. He's not, and like a good booker, a good owner, a good manager says, "Dude, how old are you? No, you're not doing that. We're not doing that." And this feud to me, this is how we build Malachi Black up. Yeah, beat Buddy Matthews. Okay. Beat Brody King. Okay. But Malachi Black's going to get you. You're going to lose to him. The fact that he had 2 other guys in the ring with him and he still couldn't beat him was embarrassing, in my opinion. Like, that match was an embarrassment. Like, you just destroyed whatever credibility Malachi Black had. You might as well just get fired of 3 of them. Because what's the point? The whole point was they were supposed to soften him up. And instead you just made Copeland look stronger. And he doesn't need to. Like you said earlier, Reverend, like some guys don't need the wins. Randy Orton doesn't need the wins anymore. You're already a Hall of Famer. It's all gravy now. Now you give Malachi Black the best match you can and you lose. And you put him over and then you become a special attraction. Adam Copeland should be a special attraction at this point, not a regular roster wrestler. So I think they made a mistake from the start. And now he's probably going to be out. I don't know how. Did they say how long he's going to be out? A year, maybe
They
6
haven't
months.
evaluated it yet.
Yeah, he
Yeah, I
doesn't
mean,
know.
so I mean,
Yeah.
thanks. Thanks for getting hurt. See you in a year or 6 months or whatever it is. I don't know. Certain guys can manage, certain guys can't. And the problem is you have to figure out who's who and who can take the punishment and who can't. So like going forward, I would say to Adam Copeland, you're now a special attraction. You're going to come out every once in a while. Your days of being regular are over. But Tony
Yep.
won't do that.
No.
So.
No, never. I got a question for you, Encyclopedia. What do you think of NXT this week?
Well, it was more shocking than Adam Copeland not knowing how to land on an elbow drop off the top of a cage through a table.
Tables were undefeated on that show, by the way.
They should have won the title. Hey, I got a quick question for you guys. Is
there goes me answering your question, Jay. Sorry.
No, wait. Well,
No,
it relates.
Okay.
Is TNA considered the same level as NXT? Are they considering them like on par? Because it sounds like they're going to be passing people back and forth. Like I thought I saw something like the New Day is going to go over to TNA.
Well, they're teasing some stuff on social media about that.
Right.
And I guess just to catch people up, Jordan Grace made it her appearance on NXT. I guess that's really her NXT debut. And she'll be challenging Roxanne Perez at their next event out of Vegas for the NXT Women's Championship. And there was some notes from people asking, hey, can we get New Day over in TNA? And I think Sami Callihan wrote some stuff. He said, hey, I got some unfinished business with some people over in NXT. I don't mind paying a visit over there. So you're starting to see people, you're starting to see their talent all kind of go back and forth online, which is kind of nice because NXT seems pretty open to building up appearances and feuds that way. But this is different because AEW had a TNA partnership. Well, I guess it was Impact at the time, but do we see this going a little bit different? I mean,
it was clearly one-sided though, right? I mean, it was Kenny Omega basically, and it was him running the table.
Yeah.
There were no other matches. So I'm wondering, is this going to be like, is TNA people going to come over and beat NXT people, or are we just going to NXT so we can lose?
Well, the last time we saw Jordan Grace was in the Women's Royal Rumble, and she looked good in the Women's Royal Rumble. Like, they didn't just get her out there to say, oh, we had the Knockouts champ, but she looked good in that Rumble. Like, of course, they're not going to have her main event WrestleMania.
When is any surprise entry won the Royal Rumble? The Royal Rumble isn't supposed to be a surprise winner. We know going in who's going to win the Royal Rumble every year.
Well, that's why I thought it was funny on AEW. They're like, oh, look, we've got New Japan guys and we got CMLL guys. And I'm like, yeah, none of them are going to win. What's the difference?
True.
You're not going to have Mystico win and get an AEW title shot. You're just not going to.
Well, the only thing is it was Forbidden Door. In fact, I started as the match was going on, I was saying to myself, there's not one U.S. like anybody from the United States there. And then all of a sudden Leo Rush came out and I was like, oh God, this is our representation. Fuck. I'm sorry. I know there's Leo Rush fans. I'm sorry. His big mouth. Him and Enzo in a death match, I would pay. That's the only time I'd pay to see either one of those guys.
So you actually want a death at the end, though.
Yeah, I do. I remember I went to some indie shows and all of a sudden Enzo got advertised after I bought the ticket and I was like, fuck. I remember.
Were they like, no refund?
Oh my God. There was one show that we totally like booed Enzo
You're
out
a
of
hater. You're being a hater.
Cup of hater.
A cup of haters.
I was a cup of hater, all right.
Yeah,
there's one. This one Northeast Wrestling show. We booed him so, and it was a terrible match. I think he was facing the now Lexus King. It was Pillman Jr. We booed him so badly, and he fed into it. Like he made the match even worse on purpose. Like hilarious. Um,
Lexus King.
I think I like Lexus King. I'd like to see where it's going with him. It's interesting. He's starting to. They actually started referring to him to a loose cannon this week. When Jordan Grace debuted or appeared, that was interesting. And then later with Ethan Page, and Vic Joseph goes, "Wait, I thought he was in A," and Booker T cut him right off.
Hey now, hey.
I was like, damn. So TNA versus NXT. I feel
No, I'm
like
talking about.
right. I feel like they are close to even keel. I think we're at a point now that TNA is on a network that really not too many people get. I would say TNA at least wrestler quality rise, experience wise, they should be slightly higher than NXT. So I think this helps NXT a little bit, but it also helps TNA get an exposure. So I'm hoping it's a mutually beneficial relationship. But yeah, we're going to see wins on both sides. Uh, hey, that guy Nick Nemeth making his NXT debut. I don't remember that guy. That'll be interesting. I would like to see, and part of it is because I can't stand how she's getting she's always involved in the main events. I've been saying this for too long. I would love to see Jordan Grace beat Roxanne Perez, and I don't think it would be an upset. In fact, right now, I would say Jordan Grace should be the favorite. If you're really treating TNA like a world championship versus an NXT championship, NXT world championship, NXT we know is a rung down from Raw and SmackDown. And it was built as a developmental territory. We know that. I mean, in the draft, NXT didn't get to draft anybody. People got drafted from NXT.
You get called up from NXT.
Right. So I feel like anybody from TNA stepping in NXT, it's going to help TNA because of their lack of TV exposure. But if I'm comparing Jordan Grace to Roxanne Perez, I'm sorry, Jordan Grace is a bigger name in my mind. And that's just simply because NXT is viewed as a developmental.
I think we'll know a lot by how they showcase her next week when she has that match, because she's
facing somebody that hasn't been on in like 16 months. I burst out laughing.
And she has to destroy
her. Bitch went.
But she has to destroy her, right? I mean, that's the only reasonable way to approach this, isn't it? Like, what's the point otherwise? So yeah, I'm looking forward to that. Also, I'm also looking forward to a possible Joe Hendry sighting in NXT. I think if that theme goes off,
I'm going to be honest. I've heard so much about that theme. I heard Chris Van Vliet talking about it recently, and I'm like, I am not looking for this theme because I don't want it to be stuck in my head all week. Because I've heard a lot of people saying how it's that addicting.
It is. It really is. It has no right to be.
Didn't it hit like the top 10 in the UK?
It might have, or it might just be him saying that too. But I think it very well may have. And
you can fact check that pretty easily. I'll do it now. I'll be the encyclopedia.
Oh, very, very good. Also, shout out to Booker T for definitely getting in trouble with his wife while practically orgasming on screen about sexy reds twerking there and outside the ring.
Does she really have a tattoo on her cheek?
Yeah, she does have a face tattoo.
Oh my god, that must have hurt like a bitch.
I have one friend who has one, and I don't know how she did it. I don't know how she sat through it. I don't know how anyone can sit through a face tattoo.
By the way, Joe Hendry in the top 10. The BBC reported on it.
Wow.
That's legit. Damn.
Oh, that's it. He's a favorite then, and we've said his name.
I generally regard people with face tattoos as crazy people.
Yeah.
So
Mike Tyson is as normal as they come and mentally stable.
Of course.
We're talking outside of Western. We're talking we're excluding people from outside of Western culture in that, right? Because there's whole tribes of people with face tattoos as normal.
I suppose. I'm just talking about, your regular run-of-the-mill, guy on the street. I wasn't getting involved in all tribes and stuff. I'm just saying most people I've met who have face tattoos, there's usually a story. It's not a good one.
You know, I got like Post Malone and who was that country singer that was on like Jelly Bean or
Jelly
something?
Roll.
Jelly Roll.
Jelly Roll, thank you.
Yeah, in prison.
If Stevie G was listening, he'd be like, "How do you not? How do you forget Jelly Roll? Country artist, awesome."
I'm
man."
just thinking of R-Truth with that platter of jelly rolls now. The entire episode of Raw and just messing up Judgment Day's area.
I'm gonna go see if I could find the local 24-hour Dunkin'.
Get
I
you
might
a
have
jelly
to.
roll.
I might have to go to Tim Horton though, because all the 24-hour Dunkins around me, because I live so far out, are long gone.
Wow. Well, that might be.
You're
Well,
in Brooklyn. You could go get a jelly roll now.
I could, but I'm not going out there. I'm in Brooklyn.
This is the
Still-
quietest we've heard. Like since we've rebranded, we don't hear the police sirens in the background anymore.
Yeah, that's why I'm worried.
The Reverend's finally behaving himself.
He's finally reached the people. They've become good in his neighborhood. They follow the teachings of the good Reverend.
Watch me walk out that door, and suddenly you guys will all hear sirens, and for no good reason. Yeah, I'll wait till morning to get my donuts. Thank you. Anyway, guys, I think we covered a lot. Does anybody have anything else they want to talk about? Because I think we've covered way too much wrestling for 1 week.
Well, we are a wrestling podcast.
Yeah, but we could have talked.
Next week we could talk about our top 5 wrestling movies of all time. No, I don't know.
It's like 5, just like 4 wrestling movies.
There's more than 4, but there's only 3 good ones, really.
Oh God! See,
I can do my list right now. They Live, The Wrestler, and that's probably it. I can't think of another one that's good.
No Ready to Rumble. No Holds Barred.
Ready
No
to
Nacho
Rumble.
Libre.
Oh, what was the one? What was the one with the guy from the A-Team? The tag team.
No, the one I know the one. What's the one with Peter Falk where he manages the 2 female wrestlers? I can't think of them with name right now. It's an older movie.
I did not know there was one with Peter Falk where he manages 2 women's wrestlers.
Yeah.
I want to find this movie.
Hang on, I can tell you the name in a second. All right, once you end the show, I'll give you the name after.
All right.
But our listeners want to know.
Well, you're gonna have to give me a second. I'm Wikipediaing it.
He's not a natural at it like you.
Or how about the one and only with Henry Winkler?
Nope, didn't know about that one either.
Didn't know about that either.
It's called
I
All
really
the Marbles.
thought there was only like
All the
4
Marbles.
All
the
the Marbles. Yeah.
That is.
How the frig did I get that easier than you? Quicker than you?
You're the Encyclopedia.
That's true.
No, it's called. I had Google open at all times. Well,
there
who was
you
the
go.
other? Who was the other one you just mentioned?
The one and only, I think, by Henry Winkler. I think is. I think Andre the Giant's in that.
Really?
I'll see. When I did one and only, I got the one and only Ivan, whatever the hell that is.
Well, go look up Henry Winkler then.
I'm working.
Come on, you're a natural at this, man. You can do it.
Yeah, 1978. And
all right.
This is the part where my computer's like, everyone told me Macs were so reliable. This freaking thing.
Yeah, all the Marbles, Jason.
All the Marbles. All right. Well, I will watch
and the
that.
one and only. The one and only, I think, is pretty funny because he plays like a character, like where he hypnotizes people. And Henry Winkler does not look like a wrestler.
No, not really.
So.
I hope he didn't. I hope before he hit his finisher, he went, "Hey."
I think this was before A.
Really?
Wow.
Yeah.
He's only middle-aged then, I guess. He was pretty old by the time he got to A.
Well, I'm looking at the Real Good app to see if it's available on streaming. I type in one and only, and it doesn't even come up as a possible result.
Yeah, it's got to be on YouTube. Somebody has to have put it up.
Oh wait, no, I found it. Hold on. You could rent it or buy it on Apple TV, on Prime Video, or on Vudu.
How much? The
rent, you can rent it for as little as $2.99 on Vudu.
You know what? That's probably $2.99 too much. So we're going to end the show on that note.
What was the other one again?
I'm not spending that money.
What was the other one? The Peter Falk one?
I just said all the Marbles.
All the Marbles.
Okay, here, folks.
I'll pay for Peter Falk.
Hey, guys, if you ever want to look for something on streaming service and you don't know what's on, download the Real Good app.
And the one and only Chavo Guerrero Sr.'s in it. Hardboiled Haggerty is in it. And Rowdy Roddy Piper is in it.
Wow.
You could rent the one and only for $2.99 on iTunes, $3.99 on Apple TV, Prime, and Vudu. Or you could just torrent it. No, I'm sorry, I didn't encourage that at all.
Hey, none of that stuff. We don't ever do that kind of thing around here, ever, for anything. So anyway, guys, thanks for joining us. We'll be back next week with some more for you. Sports Frenzy Pod on X, the Sports Frenzy Podcast on Instagram. Follow us. Check us out on YouTube. The Good, the Bad, the Encyclopedia.
Which is under the
Like
Sports
us.
Frenzy podcast on YouTube.
That's right. Like, share, subscribe, and give us some feedback. Let us know what you like, what you didn't, and let us know anything you'd like us to talk about in the future. So, from all of us, take care, peace, thanks.